inside the Niger Delta.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. Last month, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) confirmed a new date for the upcoming governorship election in Bayelsa State, which will now hold on November 16, 2019. Ahead of the polls, political consultations, alignments, realignments are already taking place in the various parties that will be vying for the office of the governor of Bayelsa State. But how Bayelsans will decide who becomes their next governor has become a source of concern for the voting public in the state, with a track record of massive electoral violence, as correspondent Tekena Miofuri reports.
Bayelsa State, the cradle of Nigeria's hydrocarbon industry, where crude oil was first explored and exploited on a commercial scale in the 1950s, is among the richest states of the Federation. Over the years, there has been a fierce competition among the political class over the control of state resources, leading to widespread use of violence to intimidate perceived opponents during elections. In the month of February this year, during the presidential and National Assembly elections, several innocent lives were lost to the biddings of merchants of violence in the state. Among victims of election violence was Mr. Reginald Day, a photojournalist attached to Government House Akugha, who was shot in his line of duty at Southern Niger local government area. Others killed during the last elections were Seidoa Taribi, a chieftain of the People's Democratic Party in Southern Niger, and one Braye Mbikoro, an APC supporter.
We need to call the attention of those that are sponsoring violence. We cannot say we don't know them. Even if we don't know them, there is need to advise them in general.
Most Bayelsans, deeply troubled by unbridled violence unleashed during elections, are getting increasingly apprehensive as the next governorship election gets underway in November.
Most likely there will be violence. And we have been trying our best to see how it is minimized. And we pray that it will be minimized so that we don't lose any soul because we are contesting election.
Politicians should do well to educate their members, their followers, on how they conduct themselves in time of party, campaigns, and even the election proper.
In response to widespread violence characterizing the February elections in Bayelsa State, Governor Henry Seriake Dixon has set up a judicial panel to investigate the incident and make recommendations on how to bring an end to political intolerance in a state he fondly refers to as the Jerusalem of all Ijaw people.
I want to call on all of you who saw what happened in Nimbe Basambri, who saw what happened, who have video clips, who have recordings, who know of the conspiracies, who know of the participants, to forward your reports and complaints to this commission of inquiry. They have done what they have done. I know it is tempting, but I want to call all of you not to join issues with them. Don't meet violence with violence.
The group of politicians in the state, of which former President Goodluck Jonathan is a member, now considers it imperative to complement the governor's efforts with the launch of a campaign against electoral violence.
We must play down violence in our politics. There is no nation all over the world that developed through violence. Even if you look at the most developed countries in the world, those are the most peaceful countries too. So if Bayelsa State will develop, there must be peace in this state. And we must start from the political process. Because most of the criminal gangs that have emerged in this state grew through political activities, where the politicians use them as boys and thugs. And at the end of the elections, it becomes a problem to manage them.
Operating under the banner of Ijaw Elders Forum, the group met recently in Yenagoa, the Bayelsa state capital, to reflect on the huge losses attendant on electoral violence. In their recent meeting, the protagonists of peaceful polls in Bayelsa State had enunciated a code of conduct which politicians must follow to drastically reduce violence during elections.
We must decide today to be decent in our campaigns, voting, and in our reaction to the final results. Election to public offices must be based on acceptability of the electorate. Election must not be contested and won based on much touted federal might. It must be contested and won based on free will of voters. Every politics is local. Voters must not be intimidated by threat of violence. We must resolve today to depart from this path. Every democratic society is tailored after the ideological concept of freedom, welfare, equality, solidarity, and progress. And the program should not end today, because the process of selecting political leaders takes a journey. I think after this time, we should also do one for those who will be at the local government level. There is the need to improve local government administration in this state, and not just this state, in the whole country.
In Nigeria's recent history, widespread violence continues to compromise the integrity of elections and has taken a huge toll on governance, and Bayelsa State is a classic reference point in this ugly narrative. For the ordinary citizens who are at the receiving end of political intolerance, a campaign for peaceful elections championed by the politicians themselves is certainly most welcome, as it holds out the possibility of light at the end of a long tunnel of electoral violence in Bayelsa State.
Inside the Niger Delta,